vein, here's the best place to paste that standard. And the surgeon can take that data and act on it, right? So it's a very simple way to kind of interact with it. And anyway, I'm gonna jump to the next one because I'm talking too much. But next one is really this idea of, we call it obvious positivity, right? Anytime you have a very complex system with a lot of components that are actually constantly being monitored and complex environments with automation systems. So we create software for, stadium sound. We create software for surgical suites, So it's really important to understand that there is this graceful acceleration needed where you don't have like alarming lights. Obviously, based on the environment you're building the system for, you need a certain set of warnings and a certain set of controls that you give the user. But with AI and with data, you can actually make that very gradual, right? And make it very soothing and really lower that cognitive load. And all of these people have to make split-second decisions. If you're flying a plane, you need to know what's going on, but you don't want to have something bleeping at you all the time. If you guys have been, obviously, in a NICU, there's constantly something bleeping, something, if you're kind of getting that cognitive load lower and lower with intelligent systems, it's really a win for everybody. I think that's where AI and data science and, intelligent system can really shine. The next one is really this idea of system thinking. We as designers, some of us might love the object, and that object is really important to us. But nowadays, the object lives in an ecosystem. There's a digital physical component, there's an interaction between, there's a data set, there's a cloud. So we have to think as designers much more on a service level or even on a system level. So I would say the future of design is system design. And it's really important to understand that you can orchestrate that in the real world with all these components interacting with each other. Okay. And then I'm gonna dive into this fourth part because you guys are all, really probably wanna see how we work. One thing we've seen over the last 10 years is also that, a lot of times clients come to us for a product and they actually end up doing the branding, the packaging, the UX, but also the visualizations. When we bring a product to life, you have to put it on a website to, promote it. You have to, put it in certain distribution channels. You have to put it in a package. Sometimes it's not even made before you have to commit to the packaging. So this whole visual communication aspect, designers are very good at that. And as you're so close to the product, you can actually kind of really build that narrative around the product with visuals, with IFUs, with quick start guides. So our practice has grown quite a bit in that spectrum because really we are, just because we were at the kernel of that already, so it gave us the opportunity to kind of supercharge our role as designers very well. And I'm gonna show you guys actually in how we use AI in that context. So you guys are familiar with the double diamond, obviously. We leverage AI on all aspects of the double diamond. When we're diverging, when we're converging, when we're diverging again, and we're converging again. We have a set of tool sets that we're leveraging there. You probably see all these logos here and you're familiar with them. I can get into the details. I'm gonna actually go through the workflow. But basically, in the beginning of a project, a lot of times you actually have to put together data sets. You have to understand the visual implications of your designs. We're using a lot of AI to generate kind of boards that designers then can leverage and then use in their ideation processes. And then when we're actually building what we know we're building, we use Viscom and other tools to rapidly accelerate the ideation process. And then when we're actually creating that visual narrative, we're using AI for context images or videos, and actually a lot of our clients leverage our skill there, independent sometimes of even if we've done the design or not. This first example here, does the video work? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Is how we leverage cohesive concept sketching to communicate design intent. So one of the challenges we've seen, actually, and that's why we built this toolkit out this way, is that AI is very good in creating photographic-looking images of garbage, right? So what is really important is that you kind of show the level of the concept at its maturity. So when we do early concepting, a lot of times we start with sketches, obviously, but you want to visualize these sketches in a way that they're not looking like a final product. So we actually use a mixed media approach where we create very rough sketches, we put them into Viscom, we use these Viscom creations as underlays, and then we actually sketch over them by hand to have like a similar look and feel between all these concepts. So as we are a big design team, many different people work on the same project. Everybody has a slightly different sketching style. In the end, it looks like a cohesive presentation, even if like four or five designers actually worked on them. And it gave us the opportunity to kind of use the AI tools in a way to kind of optimize the look and feel as we're presenting these. If you're familiar with Viscom, you probably see how this works, but basically early sketches or even sometimes blocky Rhino renderings of just a configuration can start being the foundation of like your basically exploration. What's really the advantage there is that in the end you have it all proportionally right. You have it like in the right syntax. You can put like CAD internals in there if you have a motor or like a PCBA or some sort of injection molded parts. You can never put it together and can build this cohesive presentation. If you're going down like on that first narrative, when you're exploring further and then you're narrowing down and you're really iterating on your design, you can do that very quickly with the Viscom. So this was actually an exercise we've done with one hand-sketched helmet that then we actually started iterating very rapidly. And this was a couple of hours, right? Basically, we were able to create a variety of different solutions based on that one sketch. And then a couple ones on the second diamond, basically. Lots of time, actually, when you're presenting a product, you want to present it in the context of use, or with humans using it, or you want to show it in an environment. Lots of times that's just a lot of work, right? But what we've been able to do is very quickly use AI tools to create these environments. And as you guys know, the hardest thing to do is sometimes the shadows. AI tools like Viscom are very, very good in creating very natural looking shadows. So we actually, here, this was an exercise for a lamp where we built, a 5-minute CAD model in Rhino. We rendered it in Viscom, and then we actually prompted all the other elements in Viscom on top of it, and then started photoshopping it together. So we sometimes actually take elements out of Viscom and then compose them into Photoshop. So we have a massive Photoshop file with all the different elements. The advantage there is that you have it all in the same perspective, but you can actually iterate on like the fidelity of the outcome and then compound it together, which would take so much to get it in a final rendering. But by actually doing it in Photoshop, you have a lot more control. And then Photoshop has its own AI generation tools that are really helpful for background fills or things like that. So it's a combination of different things we're leveraging. How much time do I have? I have 2 minutes or no?
No, because we started at
1:45. 1:45, so 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect, okay. I know, this is a long presentation, sorry. Am I going too fast, too slow? It's okay? Good. Anybody who has animated water knows it's a pain in the ass. AI is really good at it. So this was, we've been working on a very comprehensive, structural packaging project for a big client, and actually as part of that, we really dove deep into that toolkit because it was really important for us to show many, many, many versions of an iteration in a way that it was like highly fidel, but we didn't have the time to render these all. So we used AI to actually, AI and basically Illustrator to kind of like create very quick, mock-ups of different versions, and then we animated them, with prompts. I'm gonna switch over to Miro, and then we can dive a little bit deeper. So, can you guys see this? I'm going to show a couple real-world examples. Obviously, these are kind of put out of context. Obviously, some of these projects are out, some of these projects are still in development. The first one is a piece of lab equipment. And you know, the process at Loft is pretty similar, and everybody kind of has really adapted a similar use flow. Some folks use it in different contexts, but overall, I think we have a pretty mature toolkit. And also, we get invited by universities. Virginia Tech or NC State actually brought us in, or Philips, you know, the global design team, or 3M actually invited us to do presentations about AI, so they can bring it to their own internal organization. So if you guys are interested in this later on, let me know. We'd love to do this. But basically, these are, you know, very typical thumb sketches. Anytime we have a project at Loft, we have 3, 4, 5 designers working on it. Obviously, one then might actually take it on and refine it, but it's really important to get that breadth of ideas. So, you know, here's a typical, you know, these sketches are 5-minute sketches, right? We never ever go into like renderings, right? We really use our other tools for that. But here's kind of the ideas of, you know, this is a laboratory equipment. It has an adjustment arm. It has a gantry built in. All kinds of equipment. How does this look? How does it work? You know, how does it function? We build hand models. We go into 3D quite a bit early on, just to build very quick kind of functional models that we can hold in our hands and kind of play around with. But as you see here, once we have these kind of hand sketch models, we go into Rhino in this regard and build a very blocky, you know, 5-minute CAD model. And then we actually feed that 5-minute CAD model into Viscom, and we start building on top of it, right? So we kind of tweak the elements, and sometimes you can actually do very rough sketches on top of a Rhino CAD model and feed it into the Viscom model, and it actually alters all these design elements. So sometimes actually we then use the Viscom to 3D function to actually export it also, but it's always kind of this iterative back and forth between the AI model and kind of like control. Because if you just rely on the AI tool, it designs for you. Sometimes it designs things you don't want to design. So it's very important to kind of keep it kind of in control. And from there, then basically we can apply textures very quickly, you know, and this takes, you know, 20 minutes. It's very fast. And then what we did is actually, we take these kind of more high fidelity renderings and we use them on underlays, and then we sketch over them to create like, you know, we add like LED lighting elements, knobs, things like that. And then we basically create a full presentation with kind of, you know, this looks like a hand-drawn presentation, but it's made by AI, or parts of it at least. But this is kind of like typical spread that we then would present to the client. Any questions so far?
How much time do you think this is saving you, or is it more about expanding the
I think it's saving you time. I mean, we're a pretty efficient team. You know, we can do stuff pretty fast. It gives you more variety. And also, I always make this joke, like, there's always this last concept, which is basically the compounded collection of all ideas that is like, oh, what if we do this? You throw it in, it gives you the ability to kind of like do these like last minute, oh, what about X, Y, Z, right? Because it's not as much more work. So I would say the design quality gets better. And overall, the speed, I mean, you probably save, what, 30% of your design time, I would say, in that process. Because we go from very quick thumbnails to like, you know, this, we can do this in probably 3 days. So you can go to a client with a presentation that is like, you know, obviously it's built on configurations, right? So you have to understand the internals and all that stuff. But it goes pretty quick. Any more questions? Okay, I'm gonna go through a couple more. I'm doing good, right? Okay.
Are you guys fixed bid or time and materials?
We usually write a scope for a phase, and you know, we write a project plan, which is basically, you know, 4 phases, 3 phases. We also do a lot of engineering, so I would say most of us is fixed fee. So yeah, it saves us money if we are faster. But that's not why we do it. This is a speaker project. We do a lot of pro audio equipment, as you guys probably see on our website and under the reel. But portable speaker system. We elaborated actually on a lot of different ideas. This was a very long project because it's actually a whole line of speakers. But basically, same thing. We built all the internals into it. This is quick CAD. We put it into Viscom. We can create these, pretty finished drawings. Then we, render over it. And same thing again, like we can create all these kind of, details that we sketch on then. But obviously, because you have the perspective and all the elements, it's a lot quicker to kind of sketch over it. But then there's all these hand drawn on, basically, to create you like a more like, dynamic looking end presentation. But yeah. I'm gonna skip the enclosure because it's really very similar, but I'm gonna go to the packaging one. This was actually a little bit different. So we're working on we have a big client. We're doing a lot of work in kind of fast-moving consumer packaging, and it's actually a technology provider. So they build packaging systems for L'Oreal and other things. So people come to them to get that packaging solution. So they're always looking. One of the initiatives was basically we're helping them on their innovation pipeline. But anytime you show something to a focus group or a potential client or even internal stakeholder, they're not designers. They can't see design sketches. So we had to really go to a very finite level. And these were, hundreds of ideas, right? Because you're obviously going across all different business units around the globe. So we actually built these, very quick CAD models. And this was actually done in Rhino. And then from there, we actually started, putting labels on in Viscom. And then actually, from this, we actually, and Viscom is terrible at making labels, by the way. But it's really like good to kind of get the label and the shadow of the label, and then you Photoshop over it, right? So you basically kind of hack it, right? And I'm sure if you guys have used Viscom, you know what I'm talking about. But it's very good in making ketchup, right? So you just prompt, ketchup, and boom, you got it. So this is actually these are the Viscom labels. And then, in the end, you just basically put the brand on top. You can even get that grease and all the elements for free, right? It's just the model. The AI model is just doing it. You don't have to model anything. If you would build this in CAD, it would take you days. This was done in hours. And, finally, this is just a small set, but, it's good in peanuts. It's good in making, Windex or Dawn. It's really good in like kind of getting to these high fidelity models really quickly, right? And so this is just a small set, but these were all AI basically built prototypes. Any questions? Am I good?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Good.
10 minutes. We have 10 minutes, so I can dive a little deeper.
I do have a question for you.
Oh yeah, okay.
Do you think that KeyShot should be worried?
No.
Okay.
I think KeyShot should be worried because they haven't really done anything new. But I don't know if it's AI. I feel there's other things they should do. Like fix their shadow engine. Which I don't know if you guys use KeyShot, but it's terrible.
They'll use AI to fix it.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe the quality of the render should get better. I think, for end products, we fight KeyShot a lot, and we're using other tools too, but it's just the delta between like the output and the input, KeyShot still has the best value, right? It gets to like 95% quickly. And then we use Runway a lot actually now to animate. And so, so basically, I don't know if you guys are seeing the reel over there. We did a very complex backpack. It was a hydration platform with an app, and we animated it on an enduro racer and mountain biker, and it was basically all After Effects, KeyShot, and Runway. I'm going to show some kind of stuff where we used AI. This was actually a project for Trek. shout out to the team out there, where we actually used more like Grasshopper and kind of traditional, I would say, generative processes, but then we used very heavily AI for the renderings, right? So basically all the environments. And what we do a lot is that we find a stock image that is somewhat what we want, and then we can, we build over it by just rendering, basically hand rendering over it with like a Cintiq, just like by hand. So we get it right in the context, what we want. So we basically story tell the story very roughly, and then we use an AI engine to get the finished product and the shadows and everything. This is another product. We did a pool controller for Hannah. All the images around it were generated by AI. So that's where really AI shines, right? To find a stock image that is the right color, the right texture, the right background, it's gonna take you forever. And then we can animate these pumps. These have replaceable pumps. It's actually, I won a design award for green design award because this is actually saving a lot of chemicals around the world as a pool controller, and it also has fully replaceable pumps. So the product actually can last for a very long time because the pumps are the only thing that ever breaks. But this was all this stuff was done in AI. And then here really, when it comes to soft goods, AI is absolute king, right? So we did actually these wraps for a couple products for a sharper image. And this is just the geometry. All this was done in AI. So warping the product, bending it, shaping it on a human body, creating the human body. These are all basically prompt-driven images with the shadows and everything in place. So that's a really powerful. This would take you, if you would do this with Photoshop, would take you weeks, right? And then finally also, this is the last one I'm going to share with you guys. This was another sharper image project where we, it's very good in doing shadows, right? It's very good in like putting it into like a realistic context, and you have a lot of control over it. I'm going to open it up for more questions, and then I think we're going to go to Milwaukee.
What tools or metrics do you use to figure out when you stop in a process with AI? Because you can get caught in that sort of dopamine loop of a new idea, or is that up to the individual designer's experience and feel?
I think, a lot of times you can get somewhere really fast and then you can start tweaking it. I think the biggest challenge is when you get out of AI, right? Because I think you always have to do a little bit Photoshop post-processing and post-work. The power really that comes with AI, as I said, is that you always have the right perspective. You always can layer on top of each other. You can say, hey, I want to have more gravel in the back. It's just like, use an AI model to add more. So I would say the editorial quality can be much higher fidelity, and you iteratively build on it. Usually what happens is we have kind of in the studio internal discussions about, is this image good? What does it need? Where does it go? So it's really, I would say, the human that kind of makes that decision ultimately. If you guys, I think there is a lot of people out there that do visualization very well, and if you want to be on that level of quality, I think you have to kind of. That's really the driver, right? How do you get to that level of quality? How do you get that message across? AI gives you a lot of control in kind of like, it's almost you can sketch it before you can try it. You can get somewhere really quickly and say, okay, I want this perspective, or this. You can kind of try them all out against each other, which is much better than in any conventional process. Can you repeat the question?
Say I have design and part of the components AI helped me develop. When I'm presenting that work, what would be the best practice to acknowledge the AI aspect or not to?
I think we always, as an agency, we always say, this is, some clients actually, we have MSAs where we can't use AI, or we have to basically get permission for it. So for some clients, we don't use AI. But usually when we say, you know, I mean, people come to us because, you know, they want a result. I don't think they care too much about it being, like, which part of it is AI. Obviously, for like concept creation, confidentiality is very key. So you can lock Viscom, which we do, you know, basically create your own model. But, you know, we use, for example, Midjourney, which is, we use images where, you know, the images are not confidential, but you can just like use them as inspiration or mood boards. We would not use, like we might use a component of an image in an end product, but it's really the visualization of it, right? So you have to be very concerned of kind of confidentiality of things. But typically I would say we disclose it to everybody. And are you a student or professional? As a student, I would say, hey, you know, I use this. I would say I teach at RISD. I always encourage my students to use AI as much as possible because, you know, really the future is much more AI driven, but not have AI use them basically, right? So I think it's key that you say, here's what I wanted to do and here's what came out of it, right? So it's not like I just created a cool image and it's, you know, so I think you can see that in portfolios when people just create eye candy, but that's not what design is.
Yeah, to further that too, I would say if you're a student and you're building a portfolio and you're using AI content in your portfolio, please just note that these are AI-derived images. When we see portfolios come through where somebody's got a bunch of really great sketches, but they're all different styles, we are going, yeah, that's all AI driven. This isn't your skill. This is you just putting prompts in. So please just be honest with it. Yeah, I used Midjourney to create these. That's fine. We don't discourage that. Just document it.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I gotta hide behind something. Okay. Yep. Does everybody need to stand up? I mean, we've been sitting for a long time. Had that great lunch. Yeah, no?
We also have some snacks back here that you're welcome to. There's right past the door, any different cocktails.
All right. Is that a lot of the ideas that you were talking about are things I'm gonna reinforce.
Awesome. Yeah, I think once you start using it, you realize it's so multi-layered.
Yeah, there's a bunch of hello. Okay. Yeah, there's a bunch of nuance to it. There's a bunch of different levels to it. I can use this. Is it presenting? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Does it? I can't. Well, I can see it here. I can see it here.
Can't see it. No, I can see it. Everything that you guys have been
Perfect.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Was it
sorry
good?
about that. Yeah, it was really good. You can tell with all the questions. I have to cut off the questions. So good. And it's
Do you want
the same for you.
do you want to give a couple of minutes for everybody to kind of filter back in? That's up to you.
Like 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
And then I'll do.
I can stand up here and do my kill Tony.
Check.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
Did you need the confidence monitor down there?
Thank you.
No, I think I'm good. I got the confidence monitor. Yeah, no, it's good.
Great. Mics work great.
Yeah. I don't know if the clicker's gonna work with this, but I can just step through
All
it.
right, we're going to give another minute, and then we're going to start with Matt. Is it Matt or Matthew?
Either or.
Which
What?
one do you prefer?
What?
Which one do you prefer? Oh my gosh.
Matthew? Matt? I don't care.
All right.
I think everyone's coming in. So Matthew, if you could carry on the conversation. Thank you.
All right, I will start this. So when we were approached about presenting a little bit of AI for the Design Wisconsin, we had been working on AI in the background for about 3 years with NVIDIA and some stuff that we were doing internally. So we had, this is a little bit of a case study, but we had a really, really interesting opportunity at Milwaukee Tool. Last year, Milwaukee Tool celebrated its 100th anniversary. And in celebration of that, we were tasked with, let me see if I can make this work. We were tasked with putting together a job site of the future. It was a blue sky project that brand and marketing team had dreamt up. And the idea of the project was to envision a future 100 years from now. What does the job site of the future look like 100 years from this day? A lot of this was there was a lot of hype around the fact that we were celebrating our 100-year anniversary, and we wanted to create this really fun vision with these multidisciplinary teams to kind of get a vision of what this would look like. These images, this content would be put into a time capsule and be opened in 100 years' time. So it was a really great, it was like a once-in-a-career opportunity to generate all of this content and have your name in something that people would see 100 years from now. Part of what the idea was around was, what does construction, what does manufacturing, what does our product look like 100 years in the future? We can't really we can make educated guesses about what that would look like based on what we know now, but we're not really sure. So a lot of the ideas that were thrown around were like drones and robots and all kinds of stuff that was just like really outside of our comfort zone. Part of it was we were really pushed to kind of shake off the reality and just really have fun with it. It was meant to be a fun project, and it was quite fun. We had talked early on about how we were going to get there, and we broke up into 5 different teams. These teams were based on, we had brand, we had engineering, we had marketing, we had designers in there, and it was kind of loosely structured. We wanted to use all of the tools that we had available, all the design tools to generate images, but we were also given the ability to use AI and just have like free reign to do whatever we wanted with it. And so we really kind of embraced that because there were AI was kind of a big thing coming on then, and our team was really excited about using it in brand and marketing. We're talking about ChatGPT and all this other stuff, but we wanted to really keep it positive and fun, this future vision. We didn't want, the Matrix, or we didn't want the Terminator or something that was like this really horrible dystopian future. So we had fun with it. Our process for this was very much like a typical industrial design process. But before I get too far into that, I wanted to jump on kind of a public PSA when we talk about AI. So there are a lot of AI tools out there. Midjourney, Kriya, DALL-E, ChatGPT, like all of these tools. Most of these tools, unless you really get a professional license of them, most of these tools, the prompts and the content generated is not private. They might say that they're private. They might claim that, yeah, this is only coming to you. If you read the fine print on a lot of them, they are not. Midjourney in particular, they have a disclaimer. If you read the fine print that says, yeah, we can't guarantee your privacy with this. So as you're using these AI tools, please be careful. If you're using them at an enterprise level, if you're sharing content that is confidential, please be aware that that content is probably not going to stay confidential. There is also a lot of question about some of the AI tools and the images that they're generated, that they're created from image libraries that are just scraped off the internet without users' permission. That's another area that's still up for debate. Just be careful. I'm just going to temper it. Just be careful. The tools that we used in this progress, we used a lot of different tools, but these were probably the highlights. So we did use ChatGPT to generate prompts, to generate content, to kind of refine some of these really abstract open ideas that we had. We were just toying around with Viscom at the time, so we did jump in and we used Viscom quite a bit. How many people here have used Viscom? Show of hands. Higher? I can't see. Okay, all right. I encourage people to take a look at it. It's a lot of fun. We also used a tool called Comfy UI, which is more of a developer tool. It's kind of, I don't want to say grassroots, but it's more deeper into the technology side. It's more cutting edge. And one of the reasons why we chose to use it is because it runs locally. It doesn't run across the network. It doesn't run across the cloud. So we could run it on local computers, and we could do some stuff with it that current AI tools we can't. If anybody wants to get into technical discussions about any of this stuff, I'm supposed to not get technical into the weeds on the details, but if anybody has questions about this, please approach me afterwards, because I can tell you a whole bunch about all this fun stuff. Along the process, so the first thing we did was just brainstorming. We were just coming up with these blue sky ideas. What does this look like? How are we going to wrap our arms around this project? As designers, we wanted to stick with a traditional process, so we wanted to do sketching, we wanted to do research, we wanted to do brainstorming. And so we were using a lot of the tools in conjunction with the AI tools to just kind of come up with fun ideas. And sometimes we had a lot of fun ideas. So the ideation phase, some of the people on the marketing team, some of the people on the brand team were using ChatGPT to kind of break down and give us an AI vision of what that future would look like. Providing text-based feedback and we provided text-based prompts, and we would get these stories back, we would get these ideas back that we could start hanging our ideas, our sketches and our visual content on. This was a lot of fun, but we also did see a lot of oddness with some of the early prompts. For phase 2, we did we started with some of the concept image generation. And we found out early on that some of the tools, if you put in the same prompt, you got a lot of the same images. A lot of the images kind of had the same feel to them. You can see that with what we got. So when brand and marketing were sharing images back with design, we could see like these themes coming through, which was kind of interesting. And it seems like, it's almost like a glitch, because you could just use this tool and just create image after image. But not everything was as easy as they made it look. For phase 3, we were able to take some of the images and do some refinement. We were using Comfy UI quite a bit at that time. And we could take the image, the base framework of the image, and we could kind of tweak the colors a little bit and tweak the content to try to get down to something that was more refined and more in line with the vision of what the designers had. You can see we went through all of these different iterations in a very, very short amount of time. We ended up settling on this particular image on the one on the left, and then we added our own content on top of it to really make it pop. Some of the images that the AI was generating were really, really good. They were awesome. I mean, we had a lot of fun with it. This is just a small example of like these really great visuals. We had, spaceships and power generation, and like it was so much fun. And it really did seem like, hey, this is really cool. This is something we could do, and we could, create a whole ton of images with this. But we also ended up with some really weird images. So when we started prompting things, we were looking at cityscapes and we wanted things that were organic. Sometimes it was like more organ than organic. Believe me, these are some of the images that were appropriate to show at this conference. There were other things that were like really, really messed up. One of the things that AI can do, I don't know if you've heard about this, is hallucination. So AI can kind of take a prompt or take an idea and go 90 degrees to where you want it to go. So when we started looking at like organic cityscapes, we got organs in one case. And when we started looking at like, growing buildings like mushrooms or mycelium, we got things that looked like mushrooms. And then we ended up with some things that were just pure evil. And we generated a lot of images. So as far as workflows, Gregor kind of alluded to this a little bit. We talk about how we can use AI in a smart way, And using AI as a composition tool or as a compositing tool makes a lot of sense. So when we have an image like this where we can just take individual elements and drop them into an AI and then have AI do all of the shadows and all the lighting and kind of make it look cohesive, AI is really, really good at that. We call that kind of work bucket and shovel work. It's things that the designers can do. It's things that Photoshop people can do, but it's tedious, it's time consuming. By having the AI do it, we can focus more on the design and more on the composition. One of the other things that we were able to do and explore with was something called upscaling. If you know a little bit about how AI creates an image, where it can take an image, basically turn it into noise, and then bring that image back from the noise, they use that same process to add detail to the image. So in this example, we started with something that we really liked way over on the left, and we kept on upscaling it and downsizing it and then upscaling it again, and it kept on adding more and more detail, and it got more and more interesting the more we did it. I'm going to see if this works. This is kind of an overlay of what that process looks like. Started with something that we thought was, okay. Added more detail. Added more detail. You can see the colors start coming up. All these little spaceships, all of these things. This was just AI kind of like looping back on itself. Even more, but the colors coming through, everything's becoming more saturated, until we got kind of this final image that we thought, wow, there's a lot going on there. That was kind of interesting. This was a really good use case for AI because I think this whole process maybe took an hour, and we went through hundreds of images, but we got something that was really unique and really stand out. For the end process, we put these together on boards, and we added all the documentation that we put together initially with the prompts, and we put it together in a final presentation form. And we've got examples of the boards over on the side on the easels, but I'm just going to go through these, and a shout out to the Milwaukee teams that actually did get involved with this, because it was a lot of fun, but it was also a lot of work. And these were the results. So Team 1 put together, the city of Milwaukee is on the lakefront, and so they put together kind of a revitalization of the lakefront based on tearing down some of the old buildings, building out over the lake with using hydroelectric as a power source, and different construction to kind of enhance and revitalize the lakefront. How many people have been down to Milwaukee, the city of Milwaukee? Okay, all right, good. Team 2 came up with kind of this outworld concept, or this off-world concept. What would it look like if we were exploring and populating another planet and coming up with ideas for, power stations and living quarters on a new world? Team 3 came up with the idea of not just a construction worker, but a constructioneer, an individual or a team of individuals that was responsible for a fleet of autonomous drones and construction equipment, and they were basically almost like a conductor of an orchestra to build a fixed product. I'm going to warn you a little bit. So as we were exploring with AI, one of the things that we did is we did some training. We actually trained AI on custom models, and we were able to develop some really interesting insights on what it takes to train an AI model, but also some of the results you can get. And I really liked this output a little bit better for some reason, but they chose not to go with it. It's a handsome devil. Team 4 really focused on the idea of robotic swarms, being able to do all of the heavy, dangerous work, and in a way make the workplace safer, make the workplace more efficient. And Team 5 talked about reclaiming old properties, old rundown things, using the resources on site to rebuild and revitalize those areas. Also using robotics and kind of reclaiming the materials and things that exist there.
one of my favorite authors said, real stupidity beats artificial intelligence every time. And I tend to believe that. I think people have embraced AI as this wonderful, it's going to solve all our problems. But you know what? No, because there's just not, it's not quite there yet. AI will not replace good designers. AI is going to be more of an intern, more of an assistant, be able to do some of that bucket and shovel work, be able to take some of the menial tasks off of the things we do from day to day, make it easier for us to focus on design. And AI might not take your job, but somebody that is good at using AI will. I've started to see this with some of the student work that we've seen through, and some of the people that have embraced it in our workplace have come up with concepts that I don't think they would have found on their own. Not that it's given them the solutions, but within the time that they've had to develop something, they've come up with some really interesting concepts. To sum it up, I think AI is an incredible tool. I think it's really powerful. I think it's going to make big changes in our industry. I don't think it's going to make people's jobs go away as much as some people might think. It will definitely take over the shovel and bucket work, make some of our menial tasks easier, the relighting, the compositing. It is also changing very, very quickly. Anybody that's using Viscom knows that probably in the past 4 months, there have been so many updates and so many new changes that it's almost like a new program. Quite honestly, I would encourage the people that are using these tools or considering using these, take a look at it. Go figure it out. Really stretch your skills. Push the ability to what you can do and see if the AI tools give you a little bit more. See what they can do for you. It's an exciting time to be a designer. It really is. And I think these tools, as much as people were afraid about designers using Photoshop for sketching instead of using pens and markers, I think this is just going to be another tool that's going to help us move the design forward. So I would like to thank Design Wisconsin and Stout for giving us this opportunity to speak today. Are there any questions? Questions? How many AI proficient designers might there be up the road at Milwaukee? How many designers are there out there right now that are proficient in Photoshop and 3D? I think it's just going to be one of those other tools that we end up using, maybe not day to day, but as we run into those phases on the project where we need, that kind of assistance, that's where I see it happening. It's just going to be another tool in the toolbox. It's not going to be something that's going to, change the way that we work. It's going to be a way that it augments the way we work and the way we deliver. Other questions? Okay, so the question is, how much conversation do we have around actual job site content? I would say we have a significant amount of conversation around job site content. We have research teams. We send designers out to the field to go and observe and to watch the way that people work. We send people overseas to watch the way that other construction sites over in different regions of the world work. Being able to bring that information back and have an understanding that the Asian market might have a completely different workflow than what we have here in the States. What they have in Europe and in England is very different than the way we work here. So I think having that experience or understanding is really important to how we develop tools for those markets and for those products. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? Come on, give me a good question. how do we balance using AI too much? Okay. I think maybe I can get an answer. I know at Milwaukee Tool, we do peer reviews. We are constantly looking at the products that all of our designers are doing, and we get feedback from all of the other designers. Early on, when we started looking at the AI stuff, AI tends to generate a lot of the kind of the same vision for things. And if we start seeing that within our products that doesn't fit our brand, or that looks too similar to what we've already done in the past, I think as a team, we call that out. That's something we want to keep on pushing. I don't think AI is going to solve that problem. I don't think that we're going to, it can't create anything that it hasn't seen in some way, shape, or form before. So as designers, we still have to be the creative, forward-thinking individuals that come up with the new ideas. AI might be able to help us, round out the corners and make some of the details a little bit easier to get to, but it's not going to come up with the new idea. Does that explain it? Okay. All right. Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We have a funny story. I'm going to point fun at him, but we have an intern that was working on our team that I gave access to VizCom, and within like 15 minutes, he was doing animations within VizCom that we hadn't even thought of before. Being able to kind of embrace those ideas going forward, I think, is good, but also not having a fundamental understanding of the steps to get there is also important. And just because AI can get you there doesn't necessarily mean that it's the right way to get there. It's almost like cheating. Like you still have to know, you still have to be able to sketch, you still have to be able to make the models, you still have to be able to make the content. Just because AI can do it quicker doesn't mean that it's going to be better. Does that make sense? Am I explaining it? Yes, no? Yeah, but what's the end result going to be? Yeah. I see AI as being more of an assistant. I see it as being something that will help on the fringes of what we do. It'll be, adding shadows, compositing the images, taking the background out of images. It's good at those kind of things. Is it going to be good at building next generation products? No, I don't think so. I don't see it. It's getting good at taking 2D images and turning them into 3D, which is, that's an interesting step along the way, but it's not 3D that you can give to an engineer that an engineer can build from.
All right, let's give both Matthew and Gregor a hand.
Good job, thank you.
So I also want to give a a shout out to both Matthew Gueller as well as Loft, and with you, Gregor, as well as Saloni. You both have come to our schools and talked to our students about AI and the design process. So thank you. Really appreciate